Welcome back to Live by Design with Grace Kariuki. I am glad that you have chosen to watch this video, and I am looking forward to add value to your life. Now, as I have said before, I am a mental health therapist and also a marriage and family therapist. I enjoy helping people live up to the life that they desire mentally, emotionally, and even relationally. So today I continue on with talking about negative thinking, and today I want to identify what we call thought patterns. And a thought pattern is a habitual way that you think about life, about yourself, and about what's going on. So each one of us, we develop certain thought patterns depending on our experience and also our belief system. And so you see what happens is that the way that you think about life, events, and experiences, that way that you think triggers how you feel about life, about experiences, and about people. And those emotions then, they affect and they inform the way you are going to act, react, or respond. And then over time, if you continue to do that, then you develop what we call thinking patterns. So whenever you go through a certain situation, you tend to think about that situation in the same way. So what are these thinking patterns? I'm going to highlight a few, and obviously there are many, but one of them is what we call magnifying. And magnifying is where you think about a situation and you make it bigger than it is. Most people who magnify things, they are either doing that because they saw it being done at home, or they had parents who are very reactive, and so they learned that everything is a crisis. And so if you grew up in a home like that, then even now you emotionally are triggered by something. Any negative emotion that you feel, you tend to really have big emotions. That's what I call them. They are huge. If you feel anger, it's huge. If you feel sadness, it's huge, because there are the thought patterns that tell you, oh, this is horrible. So we use words like, this is horrible. We use words like, I'll never get out of this, or I am going to die. So if you magnify by the way you're thinking, even your emotions will be as big as the words that you are using. Number two, we have what we call minimizing. Minimizing, usually this happens a lot to people who don't like to feel. They don't want to feel the deep emotions. So what they do, they kind of minimize it, they gloss over it, and they may not be able to feel the pain of others because they think, that's a small thing. You shouldn't be worried about that. If you tell them somebody has died, they say, kila mtu, see, everybody dies and people are dying all around us. So they kind of take it very easy, and people who are in relationship with them may feel that they cannot be supported emotionally by them. Then we have those that we call personalizers. Personalizers is those people who think that everyone is against them. So everything that happens, it's my fault. Everything that happens, you are doing it to me, and that cannot be a good way to live life, because if the power goes off and you think it's your fault, then you take these burdens of people, you carry people's burdens. Small things like if your mother speaks to you in a certain way, you begin to think it's your fault. It's because you did something wrong. And I have encountered children who come from homes where there was a lot of criticism, and there was no nurturing where you were encouraged and affirmed and validated. And so they grow up to be adults who think that a lot of the stuff that happens around them that is not right, it's their fault. So that's what we call personalizing. So you normally, when something goes wrong, you tell yourself, it's probably my fault. So you take responsibility for everything. But we need to be able to understand that there are many times when it is not really your fault, and it is the fault of someone else. Then we have what we call generalizing. Generalizing, basically, those who think this way, they think that because something happened a while ago, or because something has happened in the past, it's going to happen again. So for instance, if I have been called to an interview and I went to the interview and I didn't pass, then every time I see that I need to go to the interview, the first thing I think, my negative automatic thought is that I'm going to fail that interview. And so it creates anxiety and fear, and we find ourselves being afraid, and some of us can actually not go for the interview and we will look for excuses, but really the real reason is because you don't want to go through the same rejection like you have done before. Then we have those people who do what we call emotional reasoning. Emotional reasoners are people who think that because I feel it, then it must be true. You know, I have a feeling and I make it a fact. And then when it becomes a fact, I act on it. For instance, you are in a relationship and you see your partner talking to someone and they high-five each other, and you feel that the person has more interest in that person or has some interest in that person. If you turn that feeling into a fact without checking it, then you are going to act on it. You are going to confront your partner and you are going to accuse them of having an affair with that person. So again, you are going with your feeling instead of going with the facts. Then we have another one that is called polarizing. Now, polarizing are people who are black and white thinkers. So there is no gray area. It's either right or wrong. It's my way or the highway. They are very judgmental and very, very deterministic, and they tend to think in terms of justice and injustice. So this whole thing of being in the gray area doesn't work for them, because rules are rules and they have to be. So there is no reason why you are not following the rules. It has to be that way. So if somebody is caught in a traffic misdemeanor, for them, that person is wrong. It doesn't matter why they were in that misdemeanor. But there are many reasons why people can be in a bad situation. It's not always that their intention was to make the mistake. And so you want to check yourself and see whether you think in any of these ways, because those are the patterns I'm talking about, the patterns that cause you to have a lot of unhappiness in your life. You need to find a balance. For instance, the person who generalizes, we need to come to the space where we say to ourselves, it's true that I failed in that other interview. However, I learned my lessons from that failure. I have prepared myself better. This is a different panel. This is a different organization. I'm at a different place, and I know that I have what it takes for me to pass this interview. That's the way you think about it. Take what is going on in the present time. Don't link it back to things that happened before. If you are an emotional reasoner, stop and ask yourself, because I have just made a conclusion about a certain behavior I have seen with my partner, do I have evidence that this is what it is? Have I checked with them and said, hey, this is how I felt when I saw, and then let them tell you what was going on before you decide to confront them and accuse them of something they haven't done. Let me give a good example of emotional reasoning. When teenage girls get pregnant, for instance, as parents, we immediately begin to think this girl wanted to get pregnant. That's the first thought we get, because the way we react tells us that we believe that it was intentional. They wanted to intend to do that. And the other thing that we fail to recognize is that even as we are dealing with people as they are making bad choices, we need to kind of try to understand their circumstances. There is something that I talk about when I do addictions counseling. I always tell the people who come for that, whether it is the family or the patient, I always tell them, there is one thing I want you to know, that I am approaching this as this person uses the alcohol or uses the drugs to feed something else other than the way everybody is looking at it. They have no self-control. They don't care about how other people are being affected, but we need to get to their world. and get to know so that we are not emotionally reasoning the situation. When you are a magnifier, you need to ask yourself again, does this particular situation warrant the emotions and the thoughts and the emotional attention I'm giving it? You need to kind of test it so that you can get yourself in an appropriate level as you deal with it. If you're a minimizer, again, you need to come out of that extreme that and allow yourself to feel, or allow yourself to be empathetic and even sympathetic of what is going on around you, so that you don't dismiss people's feelings and you don't dismiss the severity of certain situations. And so we want to kind of pay attention to those thinking patterns. So I talked about magnifying, minimizing, polarizing. I talked about generalizing. I talked about emotional reasoning, and have talked about personalizing. Check and see if you use any of those thinking patterns, so that you can begin to challenge those thoughts and you can begin to change towards more appropriate thinking patterns that would help you to experience the kind of life you want. So leave us a comment and challenge anything that I have said if you want to, so we can have a discussion about it. Let me know if I can support you in any way. My contact numbers are on the video, and share with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't, and it is really a joy to come into your screen. God bless you. Until next time.